Hey guys, it's me Anaïs, and today I'm here to talk to you about Dan Buri's book, Pieces Like Pottery. Pieces Like Pottery is a book that has a bunch of short stories all together, and all the short stories weave together, which is a cool enough thing of its own. But each story stands alone as well, so quite a feat. I was recommended to read this book, and I'm really glad that I did because it was really insightful and it made me think about things in a way that I wouldn't think about them, because I think that my viewpoint is a lot different than the author's. So I always kind of try to challenge myself to kind of get into the author's headspace as much as possible so that I can empathize better and challenge myself and grow and think more. And this book is good for that because it has a lot of different topics that are heavy hitting and emotional, and after you read them you might need a minute to go, wow, what did I read? That was intense. And I'm going to think about it for a minute, and that's pretty much the main thrust for me, is that this whole book, every time I would finish a story, it made me think about what the characters' choices were, what I would do in that situation, and I think that's a good thing when a book can make you think about that, and about, you know, the big questions and the little questions in life, how we treat each other and how we treat ourselves sometimes. There was a story in there about a man who had anxiety, and so his own interior voice was just telling himself how crappy he was, like just berating himself, and outwardly he was being a generous husband and father, and internally he was just telling himself how his wife deserved better, his child deserved better, and he was just a terrible person. And that's how anxiety can work sometimes, is that you just have this internal dialogue running over and over and over, where you're putting yourself down. And I like that in the story, despite that internal voice, the character was not responding to that voice. He was still holding his daughter and still being a good husband, and despite that anxiety, he was still going to make the choice to be present with his family. And I think that was a really important story. And especially for me, because that's something I struggle with. And then there was another one that really got to me, that was about a gay man who was going to see his dying teacher, who had meant so much to him. And that one just like, oh, it's like the backstory of the character, of how his family life was, and everything that led up to this kind of almost just casual talking when they actually meet. It felt really real, and I think that is where Dan Buri really excels, is that he tells these stories that are very compelling, but they are very realistic, and you can see them happening in real life. And I appreciate that, because a lot of times, like for me, I read a lot of fantasy, and so there's not a lot that I identify with that dragon necessarily, which is good, you know. But this was a different sort of challenge, and every once in a while I think that we owe it to ourselves to read outside of our comfort zones, and for me, inspirational is outside of my comfort zone, and read it and sit on it and go, okay, why is it uncomfortable? Let's think about it, and hopefully grow from the experience, hopefully take something away. I think that for me, the takeaway is that Dan Buri seems like such a genuine person coming through from these pages, just like goodness. So has this kind of optimism despite anxiety or despite bleak circumstances, holding on to that optimism. And for me, that is something, a lesson that I am striving as a pessimist to embrace myself. I'm definitely trying to be a little bit more kind to myself and projecting that outward as well. So highly recommend it. It's a wonderful book. Let's see right now on Amazon. It's only $4.99, a real steal, paperback $13.93, and really high rated. I can see why, because it really is a book that sits with me and that I will probably go back and read in the future, just because it really has a lot of depth to it. So I'm going to finish my tea. I hope that you have tea too, and I will talk to you next time. Goodbye.